good evening, everyone. It is time to begin our meeting of the Johnson County Fiscal Court, February 11, 2019. This is our regularly scheduled monthly meeting. We're now calling the meeting to order, and if everyone would please stand, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, we have a lengthy agenda this evening, but we'll try to move through it as efficiently as we can. But by all means, if there's questions, please feel free to ask, and we'll certainly answer those questions. So the first item would be a review and approval of the minutes for both the regularly called meeting on regular held meeting on January 14th, as well as a special called meeting on February the 4th. You have copies of those in your packets, so we would entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the last regular meeting and the special call meeting on February 4th.
Motion by Commissioner Gerald. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Adams. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next item is approval of the monthly bills. You have both, you have copies of the claims report in your packets, as well as the carryover bills, copies of those. And then each of you have also had opportunity to review. There's a few additional carryovers that did not get put in the report. They're in the green folder that Commissioner Salyer has. But if you have any questions on those, please feel free to ask. We've got a couple folks here, and hopefully we can answer those. But if you have no questions on the monthly bills, then we entertain a motion to approve those.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Salyer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gerald. Is there any other discussion on the bills? All right. Having heard none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item is the monthly transfer for the fiscal court from the general fund to the jail fund, and the monthly amount of $40,000. We entertain a motion to approve that transfer.
Make a motion to transfer from the general fund to the jail fund.
Motion by Commissioner Adams. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Salyer. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The next item is, actually the next two items are related to one another. They are approvals of order for affiliations between the fiscal court and Rock House Fire Department as the volunteer fire department is the first one. The second one is W.R. Castle Volunteer Fire Department. The reason for these is these are the only two fire departments who have certified rescue squads. And so I think this has been a standard practice of the fiscal court to enter into these affiliation agreements with these two agencies because of the services they provide, to which that we don't have them any other way. So they provide those services on behalf of the fiscal court. So the first one, and we'll do those separately, we have the order of affiliation between the fiscal court and Rock House Volunteer Fire Department, so we entertain a motion to approve that.
Make a motion to approve that.
Motion to approve by Commissioner Adams. Second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gerald. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Next item is the approval for affiliation between fiscal court and W.R. Castle Volunteer Fire Department for the same reason we just discussed. Motion to approve that if acceptable.
Make a motion to approve that.
Motion by Commissioner Adams. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Salyer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the next item, and a lot of these are transitional actions. We won't have to see these again for another 12 months. So the next item is an appointment of Emergency Management Deputy Director, and you have a copy of that in your packet. And this would actually name Jeannie Kennard as the Emergency Management Deputy Director. She currently works in the Emergency Management Office and has for some time. So she's very familiar with all the processes and everything that goes in case, I guess this is an event that you aren't available. Is that correct, Gary?
Correct.
Okay. So anyway, we do need an approval for this appointment.
Was she was she standing already? And you just-
She was appointed last year as well, and probably has been appointed, I assume, for some years, several years in the past. So again, this is just one of those transitional approvals that needs to be done annually, so. So anyway, if there's no questions on that, then we entertain a motion to approve that appointment of Jeannie Kennard as Emergency Management Deputy Director.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Gerald. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Adams. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, the next item is an appointment of Search and Rescue Coordinator. This is to appoint Brian Jeffers as the Search and Rescue Coordinator, which he has been appointed this for several years in the past as well. So this is just just a procedural action that needs to be taken by the fiscal court. So we entertain a motion to make that appointment as well.
I make a motion we appoint Brian Jeffers.
We have a motion by Commissioner Sayer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gerald. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, next item, item 10, is a continuity of government resolution. This is related to, in the event that I would not be available. Someone speak up if I misspeak this. But if I would not be available, this appoints someone in my absence only in the event of an emergency situation. If decisions need to be made and I would not be available to do so, then obviously someone has been appointed in the past and there has to be someone appointed to fill that role. My recommendation is for your approval for continuity of government in the event of an emergency and I am not available to appoint Regina McClure in that position. I think she obviously has a great deal of familiarity with emergency situations, with disaster, that type of thing, so it seems like that's a fairly natural fit for her to serve in that role if this event should occur. So,
Now, is this the actual office of deputy judge, or is this something separate?
this can be a role of the deputy judge, and this is restricted to to only in the event of an emergency where I'm not available. It does not grant any additional parameters of power. Good question. Any other discussion? If not, we entertain a motion to approve the continuity of government resolution.
Make that motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Adams. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gerald. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. There is also, we're asking for approval of employment for an individual, Sean Gillum, for janitorial staff at the Judicial Center. We had a little bit of a situation where we needed to fill that vacancy due to loss of one employee's out there and then the pending interim loss of someone due to medical procedure. So we were really going to be caught foul out there without sufficient staffing. So Sean Gillum was hired under those circumstances, but we're now bringing it before the court for your approval. He will work at the Judicial Center and janitorial staff. It was a vacant position that he's filling, and all the expense associated with his employment is reimbursed to the fiscal court by the administrative office of courts. So it's no cost to the Johnson County Fiscal Court. It's reimbursed. So, but we would need the approval of the fiscal court for that action. So,
I make a motion we hire Sean Gillum.
We have a motion made by Commissioner Sayer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Adams. All in favor? Any opposed? And that is per KRS 67.710 subsection 7. The reason that we're asking for that approval. All right, the next item, item 12, is a resolution. And this one, I'll take just a minute, and I won't hopefully take more than that, to explain it. This is related to a grant for the that is administered by Mountain Comprehensive Care Center. It's a grant that's currently in place, but they are now approaching a new funding cycle, and so they are wanting to seek this grant opportunity again. The Johnson County Fiscal Court is the applicant. Mountain Comprehensive Care Center serves as the administrator of that particular grant, but it's a partnership among several organizations for this, Johnson County Fiscal Court being one, the Johnson County Sheriff's Office being one, the County Attorney's Office being another, as well as probably 3 or 4 other organizations. But essentially this grant The purpose of this grant is to assist survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault navigate their situation through the justice system. There's actually 2 advocates with this grant that are employed by Mountain Comp. Their office is downstairs on the 1st floor, so if someone finds themselves in one of these situations, they can go down there to that office in a more private setting. They can obviously make their situation aware to those advocates, and then they can help them navigate the process for the situation that they're in. Again, it's a grant that's been in place, but it's now coming up for additional funding cycle. With that, though, they also pay an administrative fee to the fiscal court for being the applicant for this grant. They also provide funding for 1 deputy for the sheriff's office to provide services for this grant as well. It's currently funded at $450,000 a year. They told us earlier today that they would like to increase that fundings. They're going to try to request increase in that funding for this program to be able to provide some additional services, because they're adding an element to it, or wanting to add an element to it related to human trafficking. Apparently that's becoming a much bigger issue in our country, our state, and even in our communities, local communities. And so they're going to add a component to be able to provide services related to human trafficking. So they're going to actually ask for that to be funding to be increased. So that's the short of it, I guess. But basically, the sheriff's office is in favor of this. It's a great program. The county attorney's office also supports this program, and I think if you talk to anyone in the community who has had to have these services, I think they will all tell you that this is a very much needed program, and it's not an easy grant to obtain. That's the other thing we want to keep in mind. This is a $450,000 grant, federal grant, that not everybody has, and they're very competitive. And our community is fortunate enough to be able to have this service available where a lot of communities do not. So, but in order to move that process along, the application process, since the funding cycle does run out at the end of September, they obviously are applying for the grant, preparing the grant application. Now, part of that is they have to have a resolution from the fiscal court that approves Mountain Comprehensive Care Center to go ahead and prepare the necessary paperwork and apply for this grant once again. Now, once it's awarded, they obviously will come back, and we'll have to finalize, approval, make sure that the grant terms do not change and that it's everything that we expect it to be.
Have we ever, I was just curious, have we ever had this grant, or is this the first
It's in
time?
place right now and has been in place for 2 years. It's in its 3rd year. Yeah, it's in its 3rd year. So anyway, the resolution is in your packet, and again, essentially it is a resolution that's approved by the fiscal court authorizing Mountain Comprehensive Care Center to make application for this program again. So we entertain a motion to do so, unless I've left something out. Mike, anything?
No, it basically, in terms of what some of the folks may not be aware of, it basically helps assist the victims of domestic violence if they need to get an emergency protective order or domestic violence order. That's one of the primary goals it does. And it's been around for about 3 years now. Before that, it was done through the cabinet at Social Services. And it was taken over down here through Mountain Comp. That's what it does.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or discussion?
Is that the only way you can learn is if you ask?
Absolutely.
Is that, you said a $450,000 grant, is that, they give you $450,000, or, because you never know how often you're going to have to use this, is that how that's, I'm just trying to understand how that works.
You mean as far as?
Yeah, like throughout the year, say you just use $250,000, is that a?
It's $450 over 3 years.
It's all approved, pre-approved, and the budgets are approved by the federal government that issues the grant. And it's administered by Mountain Comp.
Yeah. What they do is they go ahead and prepare a budget for the expending of the $450,000 over the 3-year period. And then there's obviously some variation in that depending if it goes up or down. But at this point, they have to have an approved budget in order to be funded.
And all the employees that are trained have to be trained within the domestic violence component. They're all trained in that regard.
Sheriff Sager will have to send someone to a 1-week training.
So I guess Mountain Comprehensive Care is the middleman between, I mean, they're the one having to, between the state.
They manage the grant, but they can't be the applicant for the grant.
Right.
It has to be a municipality, I guess.
Didn't mean to take up time, Louis.
No, it's a good question. Yeah, but it's also a good program, and we need
yes.
to bring awareness to it as well, because it is a good program, provides a good service to our community. So, Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Gerald, second by Commissioner Adams. Any other discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? So we'll be coming back hopefully next 4 or 5 months for that approval of that application, or approval of that program. All right, next up is on the agenda is Emergency Management, Gary McClure, monthly activity report. Anything there, Mr. McClure, that we need to be aware of?
Mark, just had 2 or 3 things I just wanted to mention. 1st of January, I had a meeting with Emily Gray over at Mountain Manor, our long-term care facility. We always get together annually and go over their emergency operations plan. And she's got about 2 books, I think, that we went through that day. But they have a written plan, but we always get together and, you know, find out what their plan is. We keep a copy of it and vice versa. We had a couple of days of Kentucky Emergency Management training in Prestonsburg, which me and Jeannie took that class on the 8th and 9th of January. And I won't go into any detail, but there's like Kentucky Emergency Management and FEMA likes everybody to operate in a regional planning setting, okay? It's just not Johnson County or Floyd, but we partner with other counties to plan training, to do exercises in case of a disaster. And of course, we've seen in the past few years, especially the flood, if any of you remember, you know, we had people from everywhere, Floyd County, Moorhead, Knott County. We had all kinds of resources that had to come in and assist us, you know, during that flood, and especially the recovery operations that went on for about a week. So it just ties us all together in a planning type setting, you know, where we all know, got an idea of each other's county's resources, you know, and what's available in case of a disaster. And the other thing I wanted to mention, had a meeting with Tom Cochran concerning the Homeland Security funds that was received back last year on a new camera project for Johnson Central High School. And I think that funding was $40-some thousand, but that was like 40-some cameras inside and out for Johnson Central High School. And of course, along with that, it being that type of project, it has to have an environmental study done, because we're putting cameras outside mainly. And of course, Regina has to take care of that part of it. But we met with them and got the ball rolling, and hopefully a few months or a year or so, we'll have some new cameras out there for the high school. That's all I've got.
Any questions for let me back up to number 12 just a second. I apologize. Heather Green is actually here tonight. She's with Mountain Comprehensive Care Center. She's back there sitting behind Gary back there. She title is actually administrator. Is it administrator or manager? Your title for this program?
Director, project director.
Project director for this program that we just approved the resolution for. So if anybody has any additional questions related to it, she's available to answer those. But anyway, I failed to recognize you. Sorry about that. Item 14, you have a letter in your packet related to the vacancy that's on the Big Sandy Regional Detention Center Board. The Johnson County has representation on that board of 4 members. By virtue of the jailer has an automatic seat on that board, and then the county has 3 seats on that board out of 10, so we have a total of 4 out of 10 folks who represent Johnson County. We have a vacancy on that board. Paul Birch's term expired in February, actually, and I'm asking for your approval to not make the recommendation for Ann Ratliff to fill this vacancy for a 4-year term. Ann is actually here. If you don't know Ann, she's sitting there back behind Bernice there. Ann's very familiar with procedural processes, with meetings, and I think she'll bring a new element of view to that particular role. And so she's been willing to accept that appointment if approved by this fiscal court. So I would ask for your approval for her appointment.
I make a motion, we approve Ann Ratliff.
Have a motion, thank you. I have a motion to approve Ann Ratliff to the jail board. And do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Adams. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, item 15, slight change in our meetings. Going forward, we would like to have approval to change the meeting times from 4:30 to 4:45. I know sometimes 15 minutes may not make a big difference, but it does in this case.
Doesn't matter.
And so we don't want anybody rushing more than what they have to. So 15 minutes can make a big difference for the situation. So if you would, if you're in favor, motion to approve the regular meeting monthly time from 4:30 to 4:45.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Commissioner Adams.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gerald. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Under other, I have a couple things. One is related to an energy audit. This program, and the reason I bring this up, and I apologize for not having the information in front of you, but it's at no cost. Let me say that up front, so maybe that'll set your mind at ease. I already got a motion for it over here. But you know, a lot of municipalities and schools do energy audits to determine if there's ways to which they can, you know, upgrade and improve and save money in the long run by energy efficiency. There's a group, a Perfection Group, which is providing services for a lot of counties in this area, in doing this type of work. Essentially what they will do is they'll deliver an audit for us of this building, our county garage, the Judicial Center. As part of their scope of work, they have a memorandum of understanding in place with the Administrative Office of the Courts to be able to do Judicial Center. So they'll take a look at all this. They'll bring us back an audit report of areas to which they think that some changes and upgrades can be made that in the long term can provide energy efficiency for our facilities. We can cherry pick through that report and pick and choose what we'd like and go from there. But at this point, it's just a matter of approving, by the fiscal court approving us to, approve me to sign an application for them to do this energy audits at no cost. The time sensitivity of it is it has to be in by the end of February. So we're not going to be meeting again and hate to call a special meeting just for an energy audit. It's not going to cost us anything, but it's good information for us. But it's only available to get into the program by the end of February. Regina, am I missing something there?
To do the grant, we want to apply for.
I'm sorry.
grant funds to help it. That's due by the end of February.
I'm sorry, to do the grant.
Yes,
The grant which would go toward funding any of the findings of the audit.
yes.
Sorry about that. Thanks for the clarification. So we're asking for approval to apply for the grant, which that period ends by the end of February, and then those grants can go toward, if we're awarded those, we can use those grant funds to award what the findings of the audit would be.
So you're asking for permission?
We're asking for approval to apply for the grant
And to work with Perfection Group.
and to work with Perfection Group to do the audit. But again, all of it is at no cost. Regina will write, I guess you'll make application on the grant.
They're going to work with me to put it together.
Perfection Group will do that. So basically, it's at no cost for us to apply for the grant or to receive the information from the audit. If we don't find anything in the audit we think is beneficial to us, then that's fine. At least we've at least gone down that road to look and see if there are potential savings through that type of program.
Do we need to also put in there that give you permission to go ahead and sign for?
Permission to apply for the grant and permission to work with Perfection Group on doing the audit.
I think Kathy was saying, do you want permission to sign all the grant documents at this point?
Yes, that's what we need, correct?
We can do that.
Yes, we can do that now as well. So yes, permission to apply and execute the grant documents
And sign all necessary papers.
and sign all necessary papers related to it, yes. Thank you. Is that a motion? Great. Motion by Commissioner Adams, or a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gerald. All in favor? Any opposed? I bumbled through that one pretty good, but anyway. Next item is Mike, Endicott, if you wouldn't care, you have some information in front of you related to the Johnson County Fiscal Court deed related to the Van Leer Historical Society. So if you can provide explanation, Mike.
This was actually signed and approved by the last administration back in December. And for some reason, some documents have been misplaced, and so we need to redo it. But if you all may or may not remember, back in the 90s, I guess it was, the city of Van Leer was dissolved. That sound right? Early 90s. And when it resolved, that railroad track that goes from, I guess, all the way from Words and stuff.
The River Bridge.
Yeah, goes all the way up to head of, through Van Leer, was deeded to the county. And periodically, over the period of time, deeds have been given back, part of the railroad has been given back to the adjoining property owners. So, Van Leer Historical Society approached us last summer and asked us for a small, I think it's 0.12 acres of the deed connecting to their current existing area. And I think they're using it partly because of the parking in the Van Leer days. And it had already been approved by the previous administration to deed that particular piece of property off back to Van Leer and give it back to the adjoining property owner. There was no objection at the last time it was approved, but again, for some reason, that particular deed's been misplaced. We don't know where it went, so we need to do it over and allow that deed to be recorded and transferred into Van Leer Historical Society.
So you have actually two documents there. One is a resolution.
One is the resolution, and one is is the deed that you would need to sign.
And so, do we need approval of the resolution and also to execute the deed as well?
Right.
Does anybody have any questions on that? I know that some of us weren't here during that time, but I think we're probably familiar with what transpired.
It was signed, I just don't know what happened to it.
No problem. Yeah.
I think Kathy was present.
All right, so we have a motion to approve both the resolution and the execution of the deed related to the conveyance from Johnson County Fiscal Court to the Van Leer Historical Society. And this was an action that was taken by the previous administration in December. So.
And this has been done several times over the decade. It's nothing unusual. It's been done several times over the years.
Sure. All right, so we have a motion by Commissioner Adams. Second.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Gerald. Any other questions? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, we'll take care of that after the meeting. I had one other item on other, but before I do that one, I want to leave us on a positive note. So is there anything else from the group today? Oh, it's a really good positive note. All right, if there's nothing else from the floor this evening, we received notice last Thursday, I guess, Wednesday or Thursday, that a grant had been awarded, a CDBG grant, which is a Community Development Block Grant, had been awarded to the W.R. Castle Fire and Rescue that had been applied for a year or so ago in the amount of $495,000 for them to do an expansion to construct a training room with office storage, kitchen, bathroom, additional square footage for equipment storage, faster access to their equipment, sufficient space for training all their members. This is basically a phase one of what they hope will be a phase two, which will allow them to add some additional bays for the trucks and that type of thing. But this is obviously something that was very much needed, for something they want to pursue. And just so you know, a CDBG grant of $495,000, that the match is some less than $50,000. For the match on that. So you can spend a little less than $50,000 and get $495,000. I would say that's a pretty good investment. So anyway, much appreciation to those who applied for this grant. I know W.R. Castle Fire Department folks were elated when they got the news that this had been awarded last week in the meeting I was at. So anyway, I wanted to end us on a very good, strong, positive note tonight. So is there anything else that needs to be brought before the court this evening? All right, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, is there a second?
Second.
Second. We stand adjourned.
I was trying to
All right,
not lose.
so let's call the meeting back to order. for one last item. This came in, again, from a meeting last week, but you have a resolution before you related to addressing transportation needs, and we all know that there's always needs in the transportation area, especially related to our rural roads, our county roads. And so what this resolution is a resolution that it essentially says that this fiscal court supports legislation to modernize Kentucky's transportation funding mechanisms, to increase existing sources of funding, to generate revenues needed for maintenance construction on all modes of transportation. The fiscal court strongly encourages the General Assembly to act as soon as possible to address Kentucky's transportation funding needs to avoid further erosion of the transportation network. Essentially what this says is, as legislators, we would really appreciate your efforts in taking a look at ways to which that you can help counties continue to maintain our roads to the best of our ability and provide us the funding to do so. Now, how the legislators go about that will be up to them, but obviously this lets them know that we as a fiscal court, would like to put it in front of them, to make so that they understand that we know the need that exists for road maintenance. And I would suspect that by the end of the month that the majority of the fiscal courts across the state will pass the same resolution as it was encouraged to us to do so last week in our meeting. But again, this is not anything, we're not taking action, anything related to this other than just asking the legislators to make sure they keep this out in front of them as far as the fact that counties are always in need of additional road funding. Any questions on it? Motion to approve the resolution?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Adams, second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Sager. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, now we'll do a motion to adjourn a second time.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Terrell, motion to adjourn, second by Commissioner Adams. Thank you, sorry about that. Thank you all.